Have you ever been curious about Reiki, but you get stopped by this one single question? You know the one. It kind of makes it sound like it's all about faith, which can be a real barrier if you're curious, but also a little skeptical. Well, today we're going to tackle that question head on. This is the big one, isn't it? Does it only work if you believe? I mean, it's the question that makes Reiki sound like a placebo, something that's powered entirely by what's in your head. But what if that's not the whole story? Let's really dig into that. We've all heard this phrase, or something like it. This idea that for something like Reiki to have any effect, you've got to believe in it. It almost sounds like you have to, I don't know, mentally force it to happen. But what if the evidence we have points to something else entirely? So let's just flip the script for a second. Instead of talking about faith, the sources suggest we should really be talking about experience. The core idea here isn't that Reiki is something you believe in, it's something your body actually feels. And here is the key distinction that the source material makes. Reiki isn't primarily about your thoughts or what you believe. It's described as a physiological and energetic process. So think of it less like a mental exercise and more like, well, like a kind of physical therapy, but for your energy system. And this, right here, gets to the heart of the counter-argument. The claim is that the process just works, whether you're a true believer or a total skeptic. Your personal beliefs, they just aren't part of the equation. But you might be asking, how can we possibly know that for sure? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The source material brings up a pretty compelling case by looking at recipients who are literally incapable of forming a belief one way or the other. This is where the whole argument gets put to the test. So here's the logical puzzle for the belief-required myth. If faith is the secret sauce, the main ingredient, then the whole practice should have absolutely zero effect on certain groups. But the evidence suggests the exact opposite. For example, babies. I mean, they don't have these complex belief systems. They have no idea what Reiki even is. Yet practitioners report that it's often very effective for them. And it's not just babies. What about animals? They don't operate on faith or skepticism, right? And yet they're often pointed to as being incredibly receptive to this kind of energy work. And maybe the most powerful example of all, patients who are unconscious or even in a coma. By definition, they can't believe in anything. And yet, the claim is that the effects are just as potent. Now that is a direct challenge to the idea that you need conscious belief for this to work. Okay, so if belief isn't the key, does our mindset matter at all? Well, yes and no. This is where the source brings in a much more subtle idea, the really critical difference between belief and something else entirely. And here's that crucial distinction. Belief is an active thing. It's a mental conviction. It's you saying, yes, I have faith this will work. Openness, on the other hand, is much more passive. It's simply a state of being receptive, of not actively putting up a wall and fighting the process. So why does this openness matter? Well, according to the source, it can seriously enhance the experience. When you're not actively resisting it, you're just more likely to notice those subtle sensations, things like warmth or a bit of tingling. And that, in turn, can help you relax more deeply, making the whole session feel way more impactful. So what about the person who isn't just neutral? What about the outright skeptic? The person who walks in the door thinking, this is all nonsense, but hey, I'll give it a shot. What happens to them? You gotta love this quote. It's fascinating, right? It suggests that even when someone is actively disbelieving, an effect can still be felt. A skeptic might be too guarded to feel that tingling or warmth, but even they often can't deny that afterwards, they feel this deep sense of calm or just general well-being. The body's response can happen even when the mind is pushing back. All right, let's tie this all together into a neat little package. First, we have the myth. Reiki requires belief. We've kind of put that one to bed. Second, the reality, it's presented as an experience, a physiological one, not an act of faith. And third, the enhancer, the thing that can really deepen that experience, isn't belief, but just simple openness. And that leaves us with a much bigger question to chew on. If we put Reiki aside for a moment, what other experiences in our lives could be totally transformed? Not by forcing ourselves to believe in them, but just by allowing ourselves to be a little more open. It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.